I think my husband's mistress thinks he is richer than he actually is. My best friend thinks I'm a douche because I am keeping silent. Husband in quotes because we are not legally married. He, 39, me, 39, mistress, 29, best friend, 39. We have been together for 14 years, living together for 11. He came and told me that he was in love about 3 weeks ago. I was surprised at the lack of fucks I had to give at receiving such information. I did love him, but maybe my love has always been conditional and it's survival dependent on it being reciprocated, because it literally vanished the second he confessed to me that he was in love with another woman. He didn't want to separate, but to maybe open the relationship or let his feelings for her subside. I said it was over. It was like I never had feelings for him, ever. He was taken aback by my indifference, which I thought, the audacity? Did he want me to be hurt and suffer? I told him that he should be relieved that he didn't cause pain. Instead, he has been sulking ever since. Last Friday, I get home and the mistress was there, sitting in my kitchen, sipping my tea. I felt nauseous because seriously, I told them that this wasn't civil at all and to never be in my home again or I would call the cops. I went to my room and I heard her yelling at him for not standing up for her.
What?
Then I heard her say something very curious. Quote, "Why haven't you kicked her out yet?" He was trying to tell her to lower her voice, whispering, "Later, we can discuss it later." She left and he came to me apologizing. He said, quote, "We didn't have sex here. If this is what you are scared of, she just dropped by because I was working from home today." I told him he had until the end of March to move out and to find somewhere to be during the weekends. This morning, I changed all of the locks. From now on, he isn't allowed in my place during my working hours. So if he starts later or finishes earlier, well, he needs to wait for me to come home and let him in. But his mistress's words stuck with me. So during the weekend, I have been stalking her social media. I think that she thinks he is rich, or at least that he owns my apartment. I think she also thinks that my parents' summer house and boat are his. Unfortunately, the loser has taken her there, probably bragging about his wealth because her hashtags were all about the good life. I was telling my best friend all of this, but she was more agitated than indifferent on my behalf. She told me that he was a scum, not telling the mistress the truth. I agreed. I know, right? But then she said I was no better, not explaining to her his situation either. I was dumbfounded, but she was actually serious. I told her that it wasn't my job to bring back the mistress down to earth. My best friend got very angry and demanded that I give her the mistress's username so that she could warn her. No, I said. She called me, quote, "a bigger douche than he is then." I don't know what's going on with these people. Have they gone mad? Or have I? When did our moral compass go askew like this? Can someone tell me I'm not insane?
I found a spy camera in my room after my stepdad put a surveillance camera in my window. My stepdad, 36 male, installed a surveillance camera positioned outside of my window to scan our backyard while him and my mother and 2 younger brothers go camping. I couldn't go on the trip since I had work, so I was staying home to house sit and feed our animals. My stepdad recently put up new cameras outside, so I didn't see anything wrong with him positioning one outside of my window. Come to find out, the very next day, I had my boyfriend stay over and he found out that the surveillance camera that was ran from outside my window and into my room was being powered by one of those spy camera power blocks. For context, my relationship with my stepdad hasn't always been the best and we tend to butt heads a lot. He said a lot of questionable things in the past that I've written off because he's my dad and I would never think he intended to be inappropriate or harmful. He's been in my life since I was 8 years old. Of course, I'm second guessing everything now that I found this camera. It was positioned to point directly at my bedroom door from the far wall, so it has direct view of my entire room, which I change in. I tried desperately to rationalize it and think it was by mistake. Like he grabbed the wrong charger box, or maybe he was just trying to look for intruders. But really, there is no excuse for putting a camera in my bedroom. The camera even had an SD card in it. I'm beyond devastated. My stepdad even suggested I invite my boyfriend over too while they're gone so I have someone here, which is something he would never do considering he's made it clear before that he doesn't want him over when no one is home. My boyfriend and I are going to go through the SD card to see if there's anything on it. I am at a complete loss at how to even bring this up to my mom. I confided in my aunt and uncle since they live close by and they have been very supportive of me having a conversation with my mom about it. This whole situation is extremely upsetting. I at least have some family to support me as I navigate this, but I don't even know how to bring this up to my mom. This is obviously going to change everything. She had my 5-year-old half-brother with him. My mind is racing with the consequences this is going to have on our family. Does anyone that has been in a similar situation have advice? How can I do this without causing extreme damage to the family? Although that might be impossible. Okay, she does have an update. I went to the police station tonight and filed a police report and turned in the spy camera with the SD card. The officer said this is a serious offense and I will likely get a call early next week from an investigator due to the severity of the situation. I'm planning on telling my mother about the police report after we have a conversation about this on Monday with my aunt and uncle present. After talking with my aunt, uncle, boyfriend, and my cousin who is a civil lawyer, I've decided that I will speak to my mom in a separate location from my stepdad. Most likely I'll have her meet me somewhere outside of our home. The camera, past uncomfortable experiences I've had with my stepdad that I originally brushed off because he was my dad, video footage of him deliberately setting it up and angling it, and footage of me in my room. I'm praying she understands why I had to go to my aunt instead of her, considering she was not in town and I was worried for her safety if I told her what happened. I'm hoping with my aunt there and her being away from my stepdad that it'll prevent her from reacting out of anger and search for him and escalate the situation then and there. And I hope that my aunt can provide some support for myself and her. I'm prepared for her to go through the same process I went through, such as reasoning and denial. But with the evidence, there's no way possible she can deny it. I'm preparing myself for the worst. I just hope that I can be strong for her and support her as this all hits her like it did me. I will not be returning home or facing him today. My boyfriend will be on standby to pick up my brother if needed, since my aunt has offered for them to stay with us so my mom can talk to my stepdad without them there. I'll ask my mom to meet me and of course not tell my stepdad about the circumstances. Maybe she can tell him she's going to the grocery store. I don't want him getting any hints that she could be meeting with me.
I'm thinking about breaking up with my boyfriend after meeting his family, but I can't really tell if I'm being dramatic. I've been with my boyfriend, who we'll call Andy for the sake of this story, for just about over a year now. Although I have been on a lot of dates before him, he is my actual real proper relationship. Well, 3 days ago, Andy took me to his house for his dad's birthday dinner, and I was under the assumption that it would just be his siblings and his parents, but I was wrong. His entire family was there, and when I mean entire family, I mean his aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, great-grandparents. I have this problem where I get super anxious around large groups of people, especially when I don't see it coming and I'm unaware of it happening. So I kind of just stuck by Andy's side the whole night and engaged in polite conversation with everyone. When we were seated for dinner, Andy's mom spoke up and asked me if Andy was my first ever boyfriend, and I confirmed and said yeah, and then she goes, okay, well, I guess I can excuse it then. Of course, I asked her about it, and when I did, she basically said I was so clingy to Andy all night and not really letting him see or hang out with his family. Of course, I start politely responding about my anxiety and how I definitely deal with anxiety in large groups of people, and she basically just said back to me that he's a man and he needs his freedom. He doesn't need me stuck by his side. Now, I've always been taught to defend myself. She basically just said back to me that he's a man and he needs his freedom. He doesn't need me stuck by his side. Now, I've always been taught to defend myself, and so I said I was sure that Andy didn't mind. I asked her to please not bring this up around 30 people. Andy ended up interrupting me and telling me to not disrespect his mother like that. I asked him how it was okay for his mom to call me out in front of all those people, but I can't defend myself about it, and he told me to just be quiet and let my dad enjoy his birthday dinner. I really didn't want to create any more of a scene, so I just stayed quiet and let his dad enjoy his birthday. The only thing that really made me feel better was that his sister said to me, "It's okay, I feel like that sometimes too." I was getting dirty looks from everyone around the table. I was basically holding back tears the whole time, so before dessert came out, I told Andy that I just didn't feel comfortable here and I did not feel welcome here, so I was just gonna go home. No one stopped me, of course, but Andy did get up and followed me out and asked me to please stay. At this point, I did start crying, and I told him that I just felt so attacked in that room, and I was upset that he wasn't sticking up for me, or even mentioning the fact that he did initiate some sort of hand-holding and sticking by each other basically the whole night too. It wasn't just me. He did apologize, but I told him that I didn't know if I could be with someone like that, and that immediately made him start crying and asking me to stay, and him telling me that he loves me. I just got in my car and I drove home, and it's been about 3 days now, and he sent me a few messages before telling me that he will just leave me alone. I really like him, but I don't know if I can trust him to stand up for me around his family or even anyone for that matter. I also can't help but feel that I may be blowing this way out of proportion, and I might lose him over something that's not that big of a deal.
The FBI said that this man was one of the most terrifying serial killers that they had ever seen. There was a lot of things that made Israel Keyes different than other serial killers. The first being that he actually studied other serial killers for years, their tactics, their methods, but most importantly, how they got caught so he would know what not to do. Israel Keyes wanted to be the perfect serial killer. He was patient, he was meticulous, he was organized, and he had a list of rules for himself that helped him not get caught for over a decade. Israel Keyes lived in Alaska, and one of his rules was not to target victims that were close to home. So he literally traveled across the entire United States so his victims wouldn't be linked. Unlike other serial killers who typically have like a type, Israel would target anyone except kids. He claims that he wouldn't ever hurt kids or mothers with kids. But any other race, gender, age, he would target. Probably the most infamous detail about Israel Keyes were his kill kits. He had these big buckets that were filled with everything he felt like he needed to complete the perfect murder and clean up afterwards. And he had multiple of these buried or hidden across the entire country. Any point that he was home and felt the urge to hurt someone, he would just get on a plane and fly to one of the states that he had one of these kill kits hidden. And to this day, most of them haven't even been found. So you could just walk by one and not even know it. And it wasn't until Israel got too cocky or too careless that he started to break his own rules and eventually got caught. In February of 2012, Israel Keyes kidnapped 18-year-old Samantha Koenig from her job in his home state of Alaska. Israel stole Samantha's debit card, her cell phone, SA'd her, and then unalived her. He then left Samantha's body in the shed that was on his property for 2 entire weeks when he went on a cruise with his girlfriend and daughter. And then when Israel returned from his cruise, and this is extremely disturbing, Israel put makeup on Samantha, sewed her eyes open, and took a photo of her next to a recent newspaper to make it appear like she was still alive. He then gave Samantha's family that photo to make it seem like she was alive, kind of as ransom, and demanded $30,000 for her safe return. It's sadistic. Her family is now hopeful. It's been over 2 weeks since she disappeared that Samantha was alive, so they wired the money into Samantha's bank account that Israel had access to because he had stolen her debit card. Israel tried to be sneaky, taking the money out at ATMs, but this led to him being caught, finally. And the arresting officers had no idea that they had just caught a serial killer. They thought his only victim was Samantha. But when he was in custody, he started to slowly confess some things. It's believed that Israel had 11 total victims, but only 3 have ever been 100% confirmed: Samantha and a Vermont married couple, Bill and Lorraine Currier. Most of Israel's victims have never been identified or found or 100% linked. He stopped talking to the investigators and then unalived himself in prison, so the family of his victims might never get answers.
Okay, story time. This is how I found out that my ex cheated on me with my best friend. And yes, you heard me correctly. My ex cheated on me with my best friend. And I already know this is going to be sent in like numerous group chats. And quite frankly, I didn't do anything wrong. So, I mean, let it. But, so to start off, we were dating on and off for years. And he played hockey in a different town, but we were like hours away, so we would travel back and forth, and I had a car. And one time I moved away from my hometown to university. It was like first week, whatever you call it. And it was my first year, and I moved away, and a girl from my hometown came out, and she's like, oh, your ex, or your boyfriend hooked up with, let's call it Nancy, who was my best friend at the time. Your ex, Ben, and Nancy had sex. And I go, what? Like, you're joking, right? So, because I love confrontation and I do not care about situations like that, I decided to put Nancy and Ben into a group chat that night. Mind you, I was drunk and I was out, like, partying for Frosh Week. So I put Nancy and Ben into this group chat, and I think the only thing I said was something on the lines of, I heard you guys effed. I said the word, but don't want to, throw that out there, be too aggressive right now. And then I put my phone in my back pocket. And my boyfriend at the time was going off, like, I couldn't even put my phone down. It was buzzing so much. So I literally had to turn my phone all the way off because he would not stop calling me. He would not stop texting me. He's freaking out. He's like, that didn't happen. Who told you this? What's happening? Blah, blah, they're lying. Talk to me, blah, blah. And the only thing my best friend said, one thing, all she said was, you're drunk, shut up. So at the time I was young. I texted my other best friend, and her real name is Ivana, and a few other friends and my mom, and I was like, I heard this, I don't believe it, right? And they're like, there's absolutely no way. Like, she came to your house when he was there, like, you guys all sleep over in the same house, like student house together, like, there's absolutely no way. Like, you tell her all of your relationship problems and stuff, like, there's literally no way a human being could stoop that low. And like, we're family friends too, like, our moms are friends, our like siblings went to school together, like, we were close for a long time. So essentially I didn't know what to do and I was freaking out. So the next morning when I turned my phone back on, because I was like, I'm not dealing with this tonight, this like couldn't have happened. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, this literally could not have happened. So I woke up the next morning after turning my phone off, in my new, I think it was like my first or second night at my like residence, like my new place that I was living, I guess, for the next 4 years, and was trying to make new friends, whatever, but was so upset, like bawling my eyes out, like scream crying. I feel so bad for my roommates. And then he's like, I sent you like a train ticket, because he had a game that day. He's like, I booked you a train ticket, like I'm picking you up at the train station and you're coming to see me so I can explain like how this didn't happen and prove it to you. I go, well, yeah, you're gonna have to prove it to me, because like, what the heck? Like, how is this just coming? Because like, something never comes from nothing. So I was so confused. She still like was being so rude about it, wouldn't even say anything. She's like, I don't even know what you're talking about, like, shut up, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay. So at this point I was like, this couldn't have happened. Like, I'm like almost like 100%. And my mom and my other best friend was like, how? Like, literally when, how? Like, there's no way someone could stoop this low. So then, long story short, I go on the train and he's a bit like late to pick me up from the train station, which was a little bit weird. So, and he had like all my details, he booked it for me. And then we go to the house, he's acting so lovey-dovey, like he had his dog, babysitting his dog this day, whatever. So lovey-dovey, kissing me on my forehead, like extremely lovey-dovey. And then we make cookies, like he's trying to do anything but to talk about it. And I was like, okay, listen, I need to see your iPad, give me your laptop. And he's like, why? And I was like, give me your laptop. And he was like, why do you want my laptop? And I was like, give me your laptop. So it took me like probably like 10 minutes to get the laptop, open the laptop, signed into his Apple ID, and he was freaking out. Like, he's like shaking at this point, probably sweating. And he's standing behind me. And I put up my phone and I typed in her number because I knew it probably was deleted or whatever. And the timestamp on the iMessage chat on the side was like 4:30. And then the last message in the chat was like 2. So clearly messages were deleted. And then the message on the sidebar, which was sent last, was, okay, I'm picking her up now. If I say or call you or anything, she's in the car. Don't ruin this or something. And then the last chat in the text thing was like something totally different. Like, oh, what is she saying? Like, this clearly never happened. I wonder who told her. Like, literally, like, this schemed up a lie. Like, they had a plan. Like, they were not giving up this easy. And then finally he admitted that they slept in the same bed but didn't do anything. And I'm not an absolute idiot, so clearly I knew something else. So then after that he started crying. He, I think he threw up. And she was still nowhere, she didn't say anything. So I found out, and then he lied and said that they just slept together. And then I found out that there was a kiss 10 minutes later when I kept begging, being like, that's a lie. And then she's still not saying anything, whatever, like, la-di-da-di-da, nothing going on in that head. And then I locked myself in the bathroom because I was upset that it was just like a make-out or kiss, right, with my best friend. And like anyone would. So I locked myself in his bathroom because he like wasn't letting me leave. So then I locked myself in the bathroom and then finally ran down the stairs and he chased after me. And long story short, I got out of it. Long story short, also she said that she just liked him the whole time and that it's okay because of that. Yeah, I don't know. And I also brought her into the friend group that she's friends with and was friends with.
After my boyfriend cheated on me, I said, I'm gonna have an affair myself. I need to see what all the fuss is about. I need to get involved. And this is a cautionary tale. I don't recommend anybody do this. Disclaimer, I was 21 and on enough Prozac to tranquilize a horse. So this childhood friend that I grew up with, let's call him Dan. I was like, oh my God, he's so cute. But he was like a serial monogamist and he always had these like long-term girlfriends who were all really nice. Maybe he looked my way, probably not though. I looked like Tom Selleck. Like I had a full stash. When I'm 21, my boyfriend cheats on me and he's marrying that girl now. That's unrelated. And I enter my villain era. I literally wrote in my diary, Dear Diary, I don't give a fuck. Dan and I are out at a bar one night and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go home. And I was like, oh, want to watch a movie? And he was like, sure. At this point, he had a girlfriend of like 4 years. I knew this girlfriend well. I liked her. I just didn't like her as much as my underdeveloped brain was like, love doesn't exist. Stopped giving a fuck. Also, just to paint a picture, I went off my anxiety meds right after this because I just didn't care anymore. I was like, I don't care about anxiety. I didn't have an anxiety attack for 2 years. I was too busy being evil. Back to his house, we're watching a movie, blah, blah, blah. And I go, do you think you and her are gonna last? He's like, no. And I'm really nervous about it because she wants to move in together and I just don't know what to do. So 21, right? So anyway, why are you with someone for 4 years when you're 21? I know. All the high school sweethearts watching this are like, I beg your pardon. I go, well, it would just be so crazy if we died and we never hooked up. Like, that would be crazy. He's shocked. He's like, what? So again, he's a 21-year-old boy. He's not very into his girlfriend. So we hook up. I knew his parents because I grew up with him. His parents and my parents were friends. Start having an affair. Like, my parents are over there for dinner and they're talking about how this guy's girlfriend is moving here and his parents loved his girlfriend. And I'm upstairs shagging their son, smoking a pack of Belmonts out their window. Really, our mutual friends know about this. It's kind of obvious. Also, like, you're not really smart when you're that young. Like, I'm gonna break up with her. And I was like, whatever, dude. I'm not even trying to date you. Maybe I was. I really don't know where my head was at back then. But anyway, I tell one of my girlfriends. My girlfriend is one of those friends who tells her mom everything. Not mad at her for doing this. I actually think it's funny now. And I guess she didn't specify to her mom, like, oh, it's sketchy, it's an affair, Sam's a homewrecker. Her mom incorrectly assumed that he broke up with the girlfriend and was now like dating me, I guess. That's wholesome as hell. Tonight, my mom, her mom, and Dan's mom is out for dinner at the country club. Her mom goes, how's Dan doing? I heard him and Natasha broke up. And his mom's going, they didn't break up. Her mom goes, no, I thought he was now seeing someone from the neighborhood. Who was it? His mom's like, I don't know. Him and Natasha are still together. And her mom goes, all right, it was Sam. Now, this is my mom. Mom goes, my Sam? And she goes, yeah, I thought that's what I heard. And his mom's going, no, mom's like, I don't know anything about that. I don't think so. My mom's sitting there like, is my daughter such a dumb whore that she's fucking my friend's son? And my friend loves her son's girlfriend. Fuck, I loved her too, honestly. Big mistake. Mom calls me and she gives me the benefit of the doubt. She's like, just so you know, dinner, your friend's mom said that like you and Dan were dating or something. And I was like, that's crazy. Mom. Dating him, I'm just experimenting with my morals, seeing what flies in this old brain. Just like someone just experimented with their morals on me. Didn't say any of that. I was just like, Mom, that's fucking crazy. And then he would call my friend. I'm like, what the hell did you tell your mom? She's like, oh my God, I'm gonna kill her. Like, what the hell's wrong with her? I'm like, you clearly didn't specify that this was an affair out of wedlock. I call him, I go, we gotta end it. Our moms are on to us. And he's like, okay. He didn't give a fuck. Anyway, he ends up breaking up with his girlfriend, right? And she's like blindsided, devastated. His mom is like, do not do this. You made a mistake. Take her back. Now, by the time he does that, I'm dating my next boyfriend. And I'm thinking, yikes, did I just like mess up that guy's life? Like her life was probably better off because he was thinking of dumping her anyway, and she married someone else and I'm still friends with this guy. Love that guy. But would I do it again? Yes, I did it one more time with another close friend, back to back, before I met my boyfriend. And naturally, my boyfriend didn't trust me because he was like, something's fucking wrong with you. And this is why I've never gone to therapy. I've always had men let me know where I'm at. If you're thinking of having an affair, do not do it unless you're, I don't know, a kid, like a teenager. Even then, I mean, don't do it. I don't know what got into me. But we all lived happily ever after. That's the crazy part. Okay.
I am so angry at my mother-in-law right now. So we decided to try and be a family this weekend. See, because it's Easter, we thought we would do a nice little Easter trail for the kids. The adults can kind of get together, have a few Easter cocktails, just try to be a normal family, okay? Which can I say is quite hard when you have a narcissistic mother-in-law. One thing about me is I love planning stuff. My house is the central hub for all family gatherings. I love going on Pinterest and recreating loads of stuff. Like, I just love planning. It makes me so happy. My husband Mark actually said to me, like, oh my god, about a year ago that, oh my god, you really influenced my mum to start like planning things. Like, she never used to love it, but now she does. Like, she saw how much you loved it and really took inspiration, and I thought, she wants to be me. Basically, my mother-in-law really wanted to plan this Easter egg hunt with all of the grandkids. Obviously, I'm not a control freak like my mother-in-law, so obviously I was like, yeah, of course you can plan it. Like, we can do it in my house. Come round and, you know, plan it all, basically. She did. She started coming round and where to, like, hide the eggs. It was quite cute, to be honest. And we did almost bond. One thing I did keep saying to her during this process is, please remember, my child's really allergic and sensitive to a lot of stuff. She knows this. I mean, there's not even that much. There's maybe like 5 bits of food and like ingredients that you can't have at all. And one of them being cocoa beans. So obviously I was asking her, like, do you want me to go and get like this special Easter eggs that we can get him? Or how are you going to get around this Easter egg hunt so he doesn't pick up the wrong ones? She was like, no, I can go get the special Easter eggs. I'll make sure it's all color coded so we make sure he gets the right ones. And I thought, like, whatever, I'll trust her for this time. It's okay. So today came and she wanted to surprise all the adults with it as well. So me and Mark and all of the siblings and grandchildren went out for a like Good Friday breakfast. She could set up the whole house, and to be fair, she did a great job. We came in, it looked amazing. The kids absolutely loved it. Now, even though I weren't necessarily worried, I still did double check that she had the correct names, and she yelled at me. She was like, stop controlling what I'm doing. Like, I know my grandson's allergic to stuff. Put him in danger. I don't need your help. So the Easter egg hunt finished, and all the kids kind of had their eggs on the floor and were counting them out to see who won, and they were also eating them. As this was happening, I noticed one of the grandkids had different eggs to everyone else, and you would like to think this was my son, and it wasn't. Easter eggs looked exactly the same in the exact same wrapping as all of the other kids. One of the other kids had a different one. So just calmly take one off my son, look at the ingredients, look around it, and he has ones with cocoa beans in it. I really calmly asked my son how many of these he has had. Replies 3. They're obviously only these like tiny ones. He hasn't had 3 full Easter eggs. Obviously that is way enough to cause a reaction. I literally grab him, pull him into the car while screaming, obviously, at my mother-in-law, you didn't check hard enough. My son has the incorrect one. This is all stemmed from her refusing to ask for help. If she simply let me double check and let other people get involved, it wouldn't have happened, but she feels the need to do everything by herself. I completely ruined my mother's life for a time. So before my dad passed away, my mum and dad did have quite a happy marriage, and it really set the tone as to what I expected when I finally met my now husband. However, like I said, my dad did sadly pass away. I was so surprised at how well my mum actually managed this. I will say that obviously she was upset, however she knows things happen in life, and instead of letting it ruin her day in life, she's just gonna kind of live on with his life motto and kind of get on with life. It's kind of helped with my mum's grieving. Me and my husband decided to move her into our ranch house. So we have a huge, this is countryside house. We live basically in the middle of nowhere. My husband is a farmer, hence why we live in the middle of nowhere. We just kind of said to my mum, like, come and stay with us, like, even if you're not grieving horrendously, like, it will still help a bit. We all miss dad, that sort of vibe. And she actually stayed with us for years to come, which I didn't mind at all because the house was so big. But a good amount of years went by at this point. Me and my husband Mark had 3 kids together. My mum was such a good help during this time, and I don't know, things were just moving so smoothly. Now with my job, I do have to go on work trips quite often. I did stop this whilst I started having kids, but as we were done, 3 was well enough. Decided that it was finally time for me to start these trips up again. Literally just before Easter, I decided to go on my first work trip again. I was nervous, however, I knew Mark and my mum kind of had everything covered. Whilst I was on this work trip, I was really suspicious because Mark was really weird at replying to me. I'd obviously want to FaceTime my babies, FaceTime Mark and speak to him a bit. I was definitely getting a bit homesick, and he just weren't really replying to me, which is just weird. We've always had quite like an open relationship. I just thought it was really
really weird. So I was really anxious coming back from this work trip. So as I come home from this work trip, I open our front door to see my mum and husband together on our front sofa. I feel like shocked wasn't even a word at this point. I didn't even know what to do at this point. I was so shocked. But I didn't panic. Okay, I didn't run from this situation. And I knew we had security cameras inside of our house, which is kind of stupid from their side really when I think about it. I went into our home office and I decided to take some screenshots. You can imagine what these screenshots were. And I printed them out, and my mum is a teacher, so I posted them all around the school pickup area. My husband surrendered the house. He said me and my family can have the house. Obviously, I am not going to let my mum stay there.